In 1929, America dreamed of wealth. A nation believed that anyone, the butcher, the teacher, the farmer, the clerk, could strike gold through the stock market. Money wasn't just money anymore. It was hope. It was possibility. It was the American dream. But dreams are fragile. And on October 29, 1929, the dream shattered. Banks collapsed. Businesses crumbled. Families lost everything. Breadlines stretched for miles. And the world entered the darkest economic crisis in modern history, the Great Depression. Most people think this disaster was inevitable, like a storm that nobody could stop. But history tells a different story. This catastrophe began with a choice. A decision made by one man, one banker, whose ambition blinded a nation and pulled the first domino that sent the world crashing down. His name was Charles E. Mitchell. Once praised, cheered, admired, called Sunshine Charlie for his radiant optimism. A man who promised prosperity for all, but delivered ruin to millions. The United States was booming. Factories churned out automobiles, radios, electrical appliances. Cities rose higher, wages grew faster, and the stock market soared. And for the first time in history, ordinary people, not just the wealthy, were being invited into the world of investing. It started small. A few shares here. A few savings there. But soon, the stock market was no longer just a place for businessmen. It became the center of American culture. Newspapers printed daily stock prices like it was a sports scoreboard. People bragged about stocks like baseball stats. Dinner tables became financial strategy meetings. And the message was clear. If you're not investing, you're missing out. But someone had to sell that dream. Someone had to make the market feel safe, accessible, exciting. And that someone was Charles E. Mitchell. Charles Edward Mitchell was born in 1877. Not to wealth, not to privilege, but to a modest family in Chelsea, Massachusetts. He didn't start as a tycoon. He built himself, with ambition, discipline, and a sharp understanding of American desire. Mitchell believed something revolutionary. Banking shouldn't be boring. Banking should be profitable, wildly profitable. When he became chairman of National City Bank, known today as Citibank, he transformed it into the largest and most aggressive financial institution in America. He didn't just run a bank. He built a money machine. Mitchell pioneered new ways to sell investments to ordinary people, people who had never bought stock in their lives. He created investment branches across the country. He trained salesmen to market stocks the way others sold soap, insurance, or cigarettes. And his message was simple, but powerful. You don't have to be rich to invest. You just have to believe. This was the spark. And America believed him. Mitchell didn't simply give Americans access to the stock market. He sold them a dream. He told school teachers they could retire wealthy. He told factory workers they could escape poverty. He told housewives they could join the prosperous class. But there was a catch, a hidden fuse that would later explode. Mitchell encouraged people to buy stocks with borrowed money. This is what was known as buying on margin. Here's what it means. A person could put down only 10% of the cost of a stock, and borrow the remaining 90% from the bank. You could buy $1,000 worth of stock with only $100 of your own money. The stock rises, you profit big. But if the stock falls, even a little, you lose everything. And America didn't see the danger. Because Charles E. Mitchell promised that stocks would only go up. They trusted him. They trusted the banks. They trusted the dream. By 1928, nearly 1 in 10 American households were investing in the stock market. Not just the wealthy, but school teachers, farmers, secretaries, mechanics, people who had never gambled with money in their lives, now bet their future on the stock market. This was not investing anymore. This was a national lottery, and Mitchell was selling the tickets. But not everyone was blinded by optimism. The Federal Reserve saw what Mitchell was doing. They saw his aggressive lending, his manipulation of public confidence, the dangerous bubble forming, where stock prices no longer matched reality. The Federal Reserve issued warnings. They tried to slow the lending. They tried to reduce speculation. They pleaded with bankers to stop offering easy credit. But Charles Mitchell had a different philosophy. The American public wants prosperity, and I intend to give it to them. In 1929, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates, trying to cool the market. This should have worked. Higher borrowing costs usually slow down speculation. But Mitchell refused to let the party end. In early 1929, the market began to tremble. Stock prices dipped. Investors grew nervous. This was the moment when Mitchell could have stepped back. He could have slowed lending. He could have calmed the market. But ego is a powerful drug. Mitchell believed he could defy reality. So he made one decision. He instructed National City Bank to loan even more money to investors to keep stock prices from falling. This wasn't just reckless. It was gasoline on a fire. Banks followed Mitchell's lead. Investors borrowed more. Stock prices surged again, but artificially, like a balloon stretched too thin. The Federal Reserve had been overruled. The market was now a ticking bomb. And it was only a matter of time before it exploded. Stock prices fell sharply. Panicked investors rushed to sell. The ticker tape ran hours behind. Rumors of collapse spread like wildfire. Then came Black Tuesday, October 29, 1929. The market completely collapsed. Billions of dollars evaporated in a single day. People who thought they were wealthy discovered they owed more money than they could ever repay. Stockbrokers wept. Bankers fainted. Crowds gathered outside the New York Stock Exchange, silent, stunned. And Charles E. Mitchell watched his empire disintegrate. The dream he sold to millions had become a nightmare. The crash did not just destroy bank accounts. It destroyed lives. Factories closed. Jobs disappeared. Families lost their homes. Suicides became so frequent that newspapers stopped reporting them. To prevent copycats, children went hungry. Mothers sold their wedding rings. Fathers wandered highways searching for work. The Great Depression wasn't just economic collapse. It was a human tragedy. And at the center of it stood Charles E. Mitchell. The man once celebrated as the genius of American prosperity became the symbol of American greed. Congress summoned him for investigations. His reputation was destroyed. His empire collapsed. Mitchell resigned in disgrace. His fortune was seized to pay fines and back taxes. His name became synonymous with betrayal. No statues were built for him. No monuments. No legacy of admiration. Only a warning: when greed becomes national policy, collapse is inevitable. History remembers wars, presidents, generals. But the story of the banker who pulled the first domino is almost forgotten. Yet his legacy lives on, silently, in every financial bubble, every crash, every time optimism blinds caution. Charles E. Mitchell didn't set out to destroy the world. He simply believed the dream he was selling. But belief is not truth. And hope is not stability. The Great Depression was not an accident. It was the end of a story we continue to repeat. This is not just a story about the past. It is a mirror. Every time we chase wealth without caution, every time we mistake speculation for prosperity, every time we trust those who promise infinite growth, we step back into 1929. The question is, have we learned anything? Or are we, even now, standing at the edge of the same cliff, looking down into history's open mouth, ready to fall again? If you believe stories like this matter, if you believe history is not just something to remember, but something to learn from, then don't let this story disappear into the noise, because the same mistakes are happening again. Right now. In our time. In our markets. In our banks. In our politics. We are living inside the echo of 1929. So share this video. Not for me. Not for clicks. But for awareness. For the teacher who is saving her paycheck. For the young man who thinks the stock market is a shortcut. For the family being sold a dream that could become a nightmare. Share it. Save it. Comment your thoughts. Speak about it. Because silence is how history repeats. And if you want to understand how power, money, and control shape the world you live in, subscribe. Not as a follower, but as someone who chooses to see what others ignore.